What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Danny and Bush coming at you with episode 67 of Dynasty Decisions. This is where we take all of your guys' questions. You guys submit your teams. You ask, am I rebuilding? Am I contending? What should I do with my rookie picks? What do you think of my trades? Anything and everything Dynasty Fantasy Football is what we cover around here. This is part 2 of yesterday's video. We covered a bunch of patron teams in yesterday's video, just one patron team. In this video, most of you guys were free submissions via Discord. Via email. If you guys want to submit your teams, feel free to do so either via Twitter, Discord, or email, as I mentioned. If you guys enjoyed this video at any point, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you're new, comment any of your thoughts down below as well. But before we get into it, Danny, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well. And yeah, got to bring back the part 2. Obviously, you guys would have seen part 1 yesterday, but we neglected some Dynasty content for a little bit. Obviously, we were focused on redraft, your waiver claims, your trade targets. But now that season of redraft is over, you still have that season ready for Dynasty. You still have your trade deadlines for the most part in most leagues open. So as a result, you got to make those title contending type of moves, especially when you're well within that mix. And a lot of that we're going to analyze today.
Yeah, exactly. So, as always, before we get into the video, let's hit the intro. Okay, so the first and only patron submission of the video is from Thomas. It's a half PPR league, super flex with a 3 flex format, so a very deep starting roster. You guys can see his team on the screen there. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, mainly at quarterback. Breece Hall, Javonte Williams, A.J. Dillon, etc. at running back. Drake London, Treylon Burks, Amon-Ra St. Brown, mainly at wide receiver. Kyle Pitts is his main tight end. Mainly a productive struggle by the looks of it. A lot of investment in the 2021 and 2022 and 2023 rookie classes. 101, 103, 104, 105. A couple late first round picks or a late first round pick, 201, 401 as his 2023 picks. And then it looks like he has a projected early first, a late first, and then the rest of his picks in 2024. And then it looks like an extra 2 extra twos in 2025. So a lot of draft capital, big time war chest. He says he is locked in for the 101. He finished dead last. He's going to get Bijan Robinson. He's been trying to buy some elite quarterback assets like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, a couple of the top end guys, but his league mates won't trade. So let's start there. What do you do if your league mates are not willing to trade those pieces? Does that shock you whatsoever? And if you're in his situation, are you even trying to do that in the first place?
Well, I mean, that's something that's out of your control. Yeah, sometimes it is frustrating when you're trying to negotiate with some league mates and either they're not checking their phone, they're not like looking at the app once a week. Like I've been in leagues where really people just don't even look. Like there's points where I've been in rookie drafts where I would put the pick on the block and not a single offer, not a single response to trades would come in for the entire 8-hour duration of the clock. So, like, yeah, it's frustrating sometimes when you're making a fair offer and people just aren't looking at their phones or not looking at their trades, but that's out of your control. What you can control is those that are actually active in your league, you can negotiate with, right? Sometimes if people aren't actually fully invested like you are, it sucks. Yeah, you see more opportunity, but realistically, you're just going to be having to work on a finer margin.
Yeah, I've sent out trade offers like back in like week 2 that are still in people's inboxes right now. So I feel that pain. But the other thing too is, I mean, guys like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, people
Yeah.
don't want to trade those players too. So
Yeah.
you are most often going to have to overpay for those players. And in your situation, with the war chest of draft capital that you have, I'm far less likely to buy an elite quarterback anyway, because, if I do my homework, if I do my research and I hit on my draft picks that I have, you're probably better off building a strong core that way anyway, because then you don't have to, because if you wanted to trade for Mahomes, you're probably going to have to give up at minimum like 3 of your first round picks and 1 of your first round picks in 2024. And while that is fair value for Patrick Mahomes, you're in a position where you're not going to compete anyway. So trading for Patrick Mahomes is only going to inherently make your future picks worse and still not have you compete. So you're probably better off trying to hit on quarterbacks during the rookie draft and have them turn into very productive fantasy assets. They're not going to be Patrick Mahomes, of course, but they could definitely become, solid fantasy contributors for you, which is generally speaking my rule when I'm rebuilding, is that as much as it is nice to buy veterans, I'm only willing to do that once I'm ready to actually go into a competing window usually.
Yeah, see, I'm more open to buying like an elite or a tier two quarterback here. It all again depends on cost. As you mentioned, a guy like Mahomes slash Allen might be out of the budget, but I mean, even if you have to go down to a guy like
Kyler
Dak
Murray,
or Kyler or somebody like
Justin
that,
Fields.
Justin Fields, yeah, if you can get somebody like that, again, it's not going to cost you four first round picks to do that. It might cost you like what would you say the price of that would be? The 103 and the 105 maybe?
I mean, you might be able to get a more secure asset in Kyler Murray for Trey Lance plus one of your first round picks, which would make
Yeah,
some sense. If you're worried about Trey Lance's long-term future, it can make some sense for you to be like, hey, I want to lock down two stud quarterbacks. I already have Trevor Lawrence. If I send Trey Lance or Zach Wilson or whoever they believe in, and plus some draft capital, maybe I can lock down a Justin Fields or a Kyler Murray or a Deshaun Watson or somebody who has a more secure future than the guys that
Dak,
I
yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree with you there. Again, it's all relative to cost. It's all relative to what you could work with. Because as you said, a lot of players in your league, a lot of managers in your league actually don't check to see if they have offers. So it's frustrating when you're doing that. But at the end of the day, here, like with the capital you built up, with the flexibility you built up, a lot of things you can do here to make this team even better.
Yeah, he also said he's interested in trading for guys like Higgins, Waddle, some of the high end wide receivers to help build the foundation there. Again, especially at wide receiver, I'm going to kind of go back to the point that I made already. It's probably way easier for you to just hit on a Higgins or a Waddle in your rookie draft because you have a bunch of high draft capital rather than trading for those guys. But if the price is right, of course, go out and send offers for those guys. If they only want, you know, let's say for Jalen Waddle, you can get him for like 105 in your 201, then I'm absolutely fine doing that. But if they want 103 and 104 for Jalen Waddle, then it's probably more worth your time to just spend draft picks on rookie wide receivers and hope that they turn into high end productive guys because you've already kind of seen that play out so far with Drake London and Traylon Burks. Because, while they haven't necessarily been elite fantasy wide receivers yet, you can definitely say with certainty that their value has at least stayed the same or increased since they were drafted.
Yeah, fully agree. He also mentions possibly making a bundle with Mahomes and Allen plus one of those receivers. Price of that might be very very high. Like realistically, what do you think it would be? Trey Lance and three of those ones,
Yeah, like again, I'd be more willing to make that move if
four of those
you
ones.
were
Yeah,
you're going to be in a competing window once you make that trade. Because if you already had a maybe an extra running back or two, an extra wide receiver or two, maybe an extra quarterback, and then you were willing to make a trade to upgrade to some studs like that, then it makes sense. But to me, even if you made a move like that, you probably wouldn't be one of the top four teams in your league.
yeah.
So it's probably more worth your time to continue to work the value market, spend some of your rookie picks, trade some of your rookie picks, whatever the case is, and build out this team for the long term. So overall, I think you're in a relatively good spot. You have a big war chest of draft capital. You're open with a lot of flexibility and a lot of foundational players, as we kind of talked about already. I think we can move on to the next team, which is from Mikey B here, 12 team Superflex PPR league. Brady, Jimmy G, Trey Lance, Baker, mainly at quarterback there. Brees Hall, J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams, etc. at running back. Traylon Burks, Drake London, Chris Godwin, Jameson Williams, Josh Palmer, Calvin Ridley, Darnell Mooney, Elijah Moore, mainly at wide receiver there. Pat Frymuth is his main tight end. Then he has 4 2023 firsts. He says 3 of his 4 firsts are top 6. So a lot of them in the high part of the first round. And then he has 3 early 2023 seconds. He has 3 and then sorry, 2 2024 seconds as well. He doesn't mention if he has his 2024 first. I would assume he doesn't if it's not listed here. But overall, what do you think of the team? What do you think of the direction that he's kind of headed right now?
Yeah, no, he's obviously in a good spot. Obviously, it sucks that a guy like Brady is pretty much dead weight, but you have Lance there. Jimmy G's going to be a starter somewhere next year, and you could possibly leverage that to get a young option. Like you have, fluid pieces. Brees, obviously a top running back. J.K. Dobbins, I'm a little bit worried about now because it's been basically 2 years since we've seen him on a football field at a consistent rate. Javonte Williams, though, still insulated value. Like you have Burks, London, Godwin, Jameson, Palmer. Like you got a good focal point, a good basis for this team. You're going to be adding to this team. You mentioned 3 top 6 overall first round picks this year, as well as another one in the late portion. So you have the flexibility where if you don't like what you're seeing, you can trade down for 2024. If you do like what you're seeing, you can maybe, package up. Like you have the assets, the mobility here to be able to capitalize on some value pockets in your draft.
Yeah, and I would say like just looking at where I'm allocating my rookie picks, at least for the time being, you might be able to grab 2 quarterbacks in this class. Let's say, Bryce Young. Like you said you have 3 firsts in the top 6. You might be able to come out of this draft with 2 rookie quarterbacks. or maybe you want to trade for a veteran quarterback if the price is right or something like that. And maybe you still add a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Sean Tucker to this running back core. And then suddenly you're probably looking at a house money year in 2023 while your rookie quarterbacks develop, while some of your running backs get healthy with Brees and Javonte coming off of ACL tears. And then in 2024, you might be ready to compete as well. Because your wide receiver core, I mean, next year probably will be ready to compete, as will, Pat Freiermuth as your main tight end. And you also have 3 early 2023 seconds as well, to the point that you could probably add Michael Mayer to that tight end crew with one of those picks, and then you should be in a great spot. So overall, I think your team is well set up. He does have a bunch of trades listed here that he wants us to go over. So he traded Jonathan Taylor, Kenny Golladay, and a 2025 first to get Brees Hall, Pat Freiermuth, 3 2023 firsts, and 2 seconds in 2023, which he has listed here as early seconds too. So, I mean, this is pretty easily, quickly breaking this down. Even if you're the most staunch advocate of Jonathan Taylor, 2 top 6 2023 first should be more than enough for you to get that done. A 2025 first is a valuable pick, but I would easily cancel that out for like Freiermuth and one of the seconds, considering they're going to be early 2023 picks. And then you basically got like Brees Hall, a second and a first for Kenny Golladay.
I'm trying to understand the rationale of the other guy doing this.
He must be like a Colts fan who went to Wisconsin and is related to Jonathan Taylor.
Like, he must be related to Jonathan Taylor, or maybe it's Jonathan Taylor himself. I don't know, because that is what we call a ludicrous overpay. Like, when I see that bottom package, I'm assuming the top got like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, you might have to add, like, if you got Jonathan Taylor and Josh Allen for that top package, then it might be fair. Like, that's what we're talking about here. Probably with the JT Josh Allen side in that case, but like, that's how crazy of a haul you got out of this guy. So congrats on the Woodshed trade. He also traded away Akers, Cole Kmet, and a 2023 second, and he got Tyreek Hill, a 2023 third. We don't have to spend any time on that. You took that guy to the woodshed as well. He then flipped Tyreek Hill for Drake London, a 2023 second and a 2024 second. I think that's a great move. I mean, Tyreek Hill has obviously been very productive this year, so that's kind of not aging the best right now. But I would say London in 2 seconds is more than enough in a rebuild for me to move off of him.
Yeah, like let's look at it like this, though. You basically got London, a 2023 second. Sorry. London, a 2023 first, a 2024 second, and a 2023 third for Akers and Kmet.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that's what you netted out of that trade. And then he also traded away DK Metcalf for two firsts. He got a 2023 first and a 2024 first. By the sounds of it, one of those 2023 firsts is a top 6 pick too, so that makes the trade even better for you. And then he also traded a 2025 second for Brady, 2023 late first. That might be 2 separate trades. Hold on. 2025 second for Tom Brady. I mean, I in your situation, I don't know why you would make that trade personally. I probably would have just rather held the pick, but I don't think that's like a crazy overpay. Maybe you thought his value would go up and you can get more for him during the season or something like that. I don't really know what the rationale was there, but I think that's fine. And then a 2023 late first, and you got Chris Godwin. Again, given your team standing right now, I probably would have just held the late first, but
I would have.
Chris Godwin, I would say his value has probably increased since then, because he was coming off of an ACL tear and he's proven that he's still productive. So you probably netted positive slightly on that trade as well. So overall, I mean, the culmination of all of your trades have equaled what you have right now. You have a very solid foundation with a great wide receiver core, a solid tight end, some good running backs once they're healthy, and, one young quarterback that you can build around, and then a bunch of picks as well. So overall, you're in a great spot. I think we can safely say we can move on to the next team, which is from Chan Hughes, a 12-team Superflex tiered PPR, which basically means half PPR for running backs, full PPR for wide receivers, and 1.5 tight end premium for tight ends. You guys can see the team on the screen there. Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Geno Smith in a Superflex league. Pretty solid QB core there. Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook. Pretty, aging caliber running back core, but very productive guys right now. CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, Deontay Johnson, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore, etc. at wide receiver there. And then TJ Hawkinson with some guys like Greg Dulcich and Robert Tonyan, Taysom Hill, and Daniel Bellinger as depth. And then his draft capital. I would not expect this draft capital to go with this team, just given how it's built right now. But he has, I think it looks like 5 2023 firsts, and he says one of them is likely the 102, with the rest of them being kind of like middle tier and 2 of them being late. And then he doesn't have his 2023 second, but he does have a third. And then he has an extra 2024 first, but without his 2024 third. So he says right now he's 7-6. He's 1 win away from the 3 seed. There were 6, playoff teams or whatever. He made a few moves to add some cheap running backs to help in the playoffs. He added Geno to fill in for Lamar Jackson because he's injured right now. He also thinks he probably gets an extension. He should be their guy that next year. I think I probably agree with that. He said, "How did I do on the trades?" He says that he actually ended up making this Dalvin Cook trade. So the second part isn't quite relevant yet. Let's just go through the trades here. He gives a 2023 second, which ends 2 early 2023 seconds, sorry, and he receives Geno Smith and Aaron Jones. So what are your thoughts on that trade, given, he was a competitive team that lost Lamar Jackson for the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean it's still a little bit steep for me. I would have probably I don't mind going for Geno. It's just giving 2 seconds for clear depreciating assets. I think Geno Smith is probably worth an early second at this point, but I don't know
I'm fine
about.
with it. Honestly, both
I'm
of those
fine with
players are
it, but
probably worth an early second. You're in a competitive window, and you had the draft capital necessary to replenish your team
I
already.
just I'm just worried about Aaron Jones's value next year going on.
Oh,
Like
I think
to
it
give
will
up a
be
second.
probably not. Like, I think the absolute best case scenario is like he goes on to a new team and he's like a James Conner level value asset, and probably not even that from this past year, how we thought of James Conner coming into the year. So
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, he's destined to go down in value, but I mean,
As a
he should help
contender,
you with your
it's
championship
yeah.
run.
Yeah, like as a contender, it's not the worst. And not to mention on the flip side, Geno can gain value. So uh yeah, it's fine, I guess. This one though, you got a second round pick for Cade Otton, and I get it. He's looked semi impressive this year, but if you're telling me I can just re-roll into a second with Cade Otton, like he was what, a third, fourth this year?
Yeah, and he
Absolutely.
also wasn't a very good prospect to begin with and was probably overdrafted by the Buccaneers. As well as he's looked, he's probably not anything more than like the new Cameron Brate for them, and that's not really worth anything. And a late second in this year's class could equal a running back that's a decent prospect. Like, think about it this year. In the late second, you were able to get like some half decent running back prospects in a far inferior running back class than we
Dameon
have coming
Pierce and
up. So
Tyler
yeah,
Algier and
like
stuff.
sometimes you could have gotten like Spiller, Algier, whatever, and those guys have, had some value pockets here and there. So the third trade that he made here, he gave away that late 2023 second by the looks of it that he got, and Raheem Mostert for Leonard Fournette in a mid third. Now, this trade I'm not a huge fan of, considering Raheem Mostert and Leonard Fournette. I don't know when you made this trade, but it was probably around the time that Raheem Mostert and Leonard Fournette were probably not even that far off in terms of like their redraft appeal.
Yeah, no, I'm not really a fan, to be honest.
Yeah, I probably would have just held pat there, but no worries. You still,
Yeah.
fine, well set up there. And then the fourth trade he made here, he gave away a 2023 first. This is the trade that he was talking about potentially doing. He told me earlier today that he actually made this trade. Late 2023 first, Devin Singletary were traded away for Dalvin Cook and Greg Dulcich. Now, it is a tight end premium, so Greg Dulcich is, probably a top 10, top 12 dynasty tight end at this point, and he's pretty valuable in a 1.5 tight end premium. So I'm glad you got him back in relation to this deal, because initially he said, should I trade a late 2023 first for Dalvin Cook? And I would have said no. I mean, at least you got back Greg Dulcich in a tight end premium. It helps balance out the trade a little bit. But overall, I wasn't a huge fan of buying Dalvin Cook to begin with.
No, I do not want to buy Dalvin Cook. I would much rather just buy any running back too for a second than Dalvin Cook for a first, to
I
be
think it
honest.
was just a redundant move personally, because you already had Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, Leonard Fournette, Jeff Wilson, some guys there at running back. You have a strong wide receiver core with CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, Deontay Johnson. I suppose it upgrades your flex positions a little bit if this is a deeper starting roster. But for the most part, I think you were well set up. And the way I would handle this team going forward too, let's say you don't win the championship, because I mean, even though your team is good, it's still fantasy football, variance happens and all that kind of stuff. But going into next year, what I would be doing is looking to retool, because if you can reload by offloading some of these running backs, if somebody buys into Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, and Dalvin Cook, and you just flip them all, like even if you got early 2023 seconds at the most for those guys, I think that would be a great move for you, because you have 5 first round picks to just easily, quickly get rid of those veteran running backs, reload with Jahmyr Gibbs, Sean Tucker, Zach Evans, whoever, in those spots, and then you're still going to be in a competitive window next year, except you're going to be well built for the future. And you don't have to wait to be holding the bag, as I kind of talked about all last offseason with the Aaron Jones and Dalvin Cook
Dalvin
type.
Cook types. Yeah, no, I would agree with that as well. Other than that, though, I mean, you're clearly trying to win. You still have 5 first round picks. Like by next season, yeah, 5 first round picks. I almost counted 6 for a second. By next season, your team should be an absolute juggernaut. Like genuinely, you're already 7-6 and competing for the 6 seed now, or 3 seed now. Imagine by next year when you have those players in the 2023 class to be able to help you in your pursuit of a championship.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty easy transition, and you don't actually see that very often, which is why I surprised.
Yeah.
Usually, competitive teams don't have a lot of draft capital. You're in a great spot, whereas when you can still sell off those competitive pieces and even add more draft capital to what you already have, and then quickly reload. So moving on to Leonardo's team here, we got a 10-team, 1-quarterback league, full PPR. You guys can see his main quarterback there, Jalen Hurts with Deshaun Watson in the wings, Russell Wilson there as well. Pretty much nothing at running back. Jerick McKinnon, Dontrell Hilliard looking like a Danny running back core in a dynasty league. T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin, Jahan Dotson, Traylon Burks, Elijah Moore, DJ Moore, Michael Thomas at wide receiver, Dallas Goedert as his main tight end with guys like Greg Dulcich and Bellinger and Gesicki and Fant waiting in the wings there. And then he also has some very, very high draft capital, 2023 101. So we presume he's going to add, Bijan Robinson to this team. 2023 102. He has 2 mid firsts in 2023 as well and 2 late firsts. So 6 ones overall in the 2023 class. And then he also has a couple 4 seconds in 2024 and then all of his other picks going forward. So, I mean, again, this is a classic us shell. This is the type of team we like to build. 6 ones, a strong wide receiver core, pretty solid tight ends, and 2 anchor quarterbacks in a 1-quarterback league. You didn't even really need Watson. If you just had Hurts and Russ, you'd probably be fine. So, I mean, this is a pretty simple explanation for me. You're just going to draft mostly running backs this year.
Yeah, well, what's so great about this running back core and why it's so me is that it even has my last name as the first option. So yeah, that tells you all you need to know about the structure of the running back core, if you will. But yeah, no, I agree with Bush. You build up that running back core. You still have Higgins, Deontay, Godwin, Dotson, Burks, Rondale, Elijah, DJ. Like, yeah, you're loaded at the wide receiver position.
You're not going to spend 6 1s and 4 2s on all running backs. You're probably going to add a wide receiver here and there as well. So yeah, this team is going to be frightening for your league mates going forward because you're going to add Bijan to this team. At 102, given your team construction, it's a 1-quarterback league. Jameer Gibbs is a fine pick there, or Sean Tucker is a fine pick there as well. The mid first, you could probably get Sean Tucker there if you don't want to take him at 102. Later, maybe you take Jordan Addison with one of your other mid first just to add some wide receiver depth, and then you can grab Zach Evans,
Kendre Miller,
whoever in the mid second and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. No, I agree with you there. You have a very bright future in terms of trade targets / trade away targets on your team specifically. Like, there's nobody
going after a stud receiver with this team.
Like, would you put up like Dotson in one of those mid first to get like a huge upgrade?
I don't know how big of an upgrade that's going to get you personally, but
what about Dotson?
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say because I just realized he was also 1-quarterback league, right? Like you mentioned. What about Dotson in those 2 late 23s to get like a Waddle or Lamb?
I mean, if you can get that done, I'm totally fine with it. I'd actually almost be willing to give up a better receiver. Like if you can give up, let's say Burks or DJ Moore plus like one of the mid first and go after a CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle. I don't think that would get you to Chase or Jefferson, but
no, I agree.
If it gets you to Waddle and Lamb, I think that's fine as well. You're in a very good spot here because like all you have to do is fill out your running back core and you're ready to compete as soon as next year. Your tight ends, you're very solid there. Wide receivers, you're very solid. You're probably going to add another 1 or 2 in the rookie class as well. So you have the ability, if you want to add a stud wide receiver to this team. Maybe go after Kyle Pitts if you want to, or Mark Andrews or something for next year. Your quarterbacks are already, superstars as well with 2 of them in a 1-quarterback league. You'll be very, very well set up for that. So yeah, there's not much I would do with this team, to be honest. I think I'm totally cool riding this one out. You're going to be in a winning window as soon as next year too. So the one thing to keep in mind during your rookie draft is that you could trade for, let's say you're on the board at 109 and the DeAndre Swift manager wants to get Zach Evans or something. You can just swap them 1 for 1 for DeAndre Swift because you're going to be in a winning window as soon as next year. So this is the ideal position to be in, I would say, when you're building out a, shell of a productive struggle, is that you have, a loaded war chest of draft picks in a loaded running back class to fill out your running back core. It's a pretty great situation to be in.
Yeah, no, I agree. Overall, keep up the good work because this team is going to be nearly unstoppable after the season.
Yeah, exactly. So before we get into the next team, as always, got to pay some bills around here. Hear from our sponsors over at Manscaped. What's happening, y'all? This holiday season, our friends at Manscaped are helping you clear your driveway for safe travels this holiday season. From stocking stuffers to white elephants, Manscaped's products are at the top of every wish list. Win this year's White Elephant gift and help all of the men in your life go from eggnog to nice hog this December by going to manscaped.com and using the promo code BUSH at checkout. You will get 20% off plus free shipping. Me and Danny are huge advocates of Manscaped's products, and I'm sure the men in your life will love to get them as Christmas gifts as well. Manscaped is a one-stop shop for all of your holiday needs. They have the perfect gift in the Platinum Package 4.0, plus loads of little presents for stocking stuffers within that package. What a better holiday gift than the gift of good hygiene and probably a couple laughs as well. Manscaped has everything from shampoos, body washes, upstairs and downstairs deodorant, gels, exfoliates, absolutely everything that the men in your life could need to keep them clean this holiday season. Get them a pair of Manscaped boxers as well, specifically made to keep the area of your body cool and provide a holiday comfort year round. And if your dad or your brother or your significant other has nasty nose hairs, save his life with the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer. The Shears 2.0 is full for nail care with scissors, clippers, tweezers, and a file for the traveling man. There's the new Persevere cologne, which is a light woodsy feel to it, gives that fresh tree scent even after the holidays are over. If the men in your life are still using a loofah, check out the Body Buffer. Loofahs actually hold bacteria from dead skin, help them throw out that disgusting loofah, and get them the body scrubber that helps them feel smoother. And lastly, topping off the stocking with the crown jewel for their family jewels, the Lawnmower 4.0 electric razor, advanced skin safe technology designed specifically for your downstairs area, known for reducing risks and cuts on his Santa sack. Manscaped is here to make holiday shopping a blast by giving products that they'll love and also giving them a laugh in the process. Again, 20% off plus free shipping using the promo code BUSH at manscaped.com. Whatever the men in your life need for Christmas, Manscaped will have you covered for the perfect gift that will be the biggest holiday hit. Go to manscaped.com, promo code BUSH for 20% off plus free shipping. And we're back to the video. All right, big shout out to Manscaped. Again, holiday season. If you guys are looking for gifts for brothers, fathers, significant others, whatever, go check out Manscaped. It's 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BUSH site-wide right now. But let's get on to the next team here from Tried. It's a one quarterback league. I believe it's probably like PPR or something he didn't specify, but you guys can see his main quarterbacks there with Patrick Mahomes, Trey Lance. That's a fine core in a one quarterback league. J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Walker, Rashad White at running back, T. Higgins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Christian Kirk, George Pickens, Jahan Dotson, Terrace Marshall, Josh Palmer, etc. at wide receiver, Pat Freiermuth, Greg Dulcich, and K. Dotton mainly at tight end. And then it looks like he has all of his picks in 2023 minus his third, and he has an extra second and an extra fourth, and then all of his picks in 2024 plus an extra second. So overall, looking at this team, what are your thoughts? And then we'll get into the trade that he made and then some of the other questions he has.
So, I mean, you got some clear building blocks on this team, especially in a one quarterback league. Like Mahomes is still a top 2 quarterback. Kenneth Walker, top 3-ish, top 5 at minimum level running back in Dynasty. Rashad White gaining value right now. T. Higgins, Amon-Ra, Christian Kirk, George. Yeah, like you're built out in the flexes. Pat Freiermuth, Greg Dulcich is a solid 1-2 punch, if you will, at tight end. And then, as I mentioned, like you have a lot of your future capital. So, yeah, I think this is a really fine team. Probably need a little bit more firepower before you truly compete for a championship. But I do think that you have the right building blocks set in place.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Mahomes, Higgins, Amon-Ra, and maybe Freiermuth for the future, like you might be lacking some superstars, but for the most part, you're well set up. And
Yeah.
he actually traded 2 firsts to get Mahomes in a one quarterback league. So I'm assuming these were 2 late first round picks. Are you fine making this move even though it's a one quarterback league? Is Mahomes that good of an asset that he's still worth 2 ones in a one quarterback league?
Mahomes is worth it, but for me personally, like you still have Trey Lance, and you probably weren't going to compete for the title this year. So I probably would have just held the pick capital again. Like as much I love Mahomes, he's probably worth that package even in a one quarterback. He's that much of a difference maker. But you have Trey Lance. I would personally want to see where he's at, especially in a one quarterback league by next year, because you're probably not competing for the championship this year. So that's just my thought. I don't move picks unless I'm for sure, absolutely certain that I'm going to be making a playoff push or a top 3 level seed push. But that's just my own philosophy.
Yeah, I'm honestly fine doing it. Just given that
fine,
you're
but
kind of
yeah.
lacking superstar talent and Mahomes gives you that. Maybe you could have gotten like Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts, or Kyler Murray for like 1 first and maybe a small piece on top of it. That probably would have been a better trade to make. But again, I don't fault anybody for acquiring superstars when you have the ability to do so. Because like a late first in a one quarterback format, if they were late, like was probably not going to be a huge difference maker for your team anyway.
Were they for sure late?
He didn't say, but I'm
That's
assuming they were if he made this trade.
But like, see, that's the thing. We're not going to know
Right,
that.
we can't assume that. So if they were early to mid, then yes, I think you probably paid too much. But if these picks are if one of these picks was the 108 and one of these picks was the 111, then I'm totally fine making this move.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We're not going to know exactly where the picks are, but yeah, value wise, if they're late, absolutely that's fine. But you know, I would personally just want to build up the roster, especially because I still have belief in Trey Lance.
Yeah, that's fair. He also says he went from bottom dweller this past year to just missing the playoffs. Are there thoughts on any moves that he can make to turn himself maybe into a contender next year, or at least a house money type of team kind of thing?
I mean, nothing really jumps out to me. Maybe trying to get more like top end, like other than getting top end talent in the flex spots, like nothing really sticks out to me.
Yeah, the running back core that you have is kind of tricky because Kenneth Walker and Rachaad White, I think, will be building blocks for you going forward, but we really don't know what you're going to get out of J.K. Dobbins and Antonio Gibson. And I think
Agreed.
your best course of action with those players is probably to hold, at least until, maybe J.K. Dobbins comes back towards the end this year and starts to get a full workload, and then the hype train kind of builds for him in going into next year because, everybody, every fantasy analyst in the world will be like, oh, he's second year removed from the torn ACL. He's going to be ready to go. And then maybe you can sell him for a first round pick before the NFL draft. That would make some sense to me. But as of right now, you're probably just stuck holding on Gibson and Dobbins unless they go to different teams or whatever for Gibson's sake. But the wide receiver core is, pretty well built. George Pickens stands out to me as a guy that I would probably sell high just because I think he's generally overvalued. If you can sell him for, maybe you can throw it, maybe the person won't do George Pickens for Treylon Burks or Jameson Williams straight up. But if you sell George Pickens and Josh Palmer for those guys, then I'd be totally cool doing that just because, you guys know I wasn't a huge George Pickens believer going into the draft, and I'm still not a believer now because as many, contested catches as he's made, he still isn't commanding an elite target share, and now he's getting mad when he gets 2 targets in a game. And I did fear that the guy might be a little bit of a head case as well.
Yeah, like I've been saying this for a while, but like people have this superstar level expectation for George Pickens. All I see when I watch George Pickens is a early career Michael Gallup. Like hasn't fully developed his route tree, but he's good winning on the outside. He's good high pointing the football, and he's physically dominant in the air. Like that's what I see out of George Pickens, an early career Michael Gallup, and not to mention Michael Gallup's developed his route tree. So George Pickens really wants to be like a wide receiver one in the NFL. You got to learn something other than the go ball. You got to learn something other than sticking on the outside and hoping and praying that Kenny Pickett can find you on the boundary. Because realistically, if he doesn't have that full array in his route tree, he's never going to be anything more than like a really solid number 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that to me, that kind of outlook belongs in the wide receiver 25 to 35 range in Dynasty, not like wide receiver 14 or whatever.
Is that where he is right now?
He's high, man. He's really high. He's higher than Burks and Jameson Williams, and he absolutely should not be, in my opinion. So, yeah, I definitely am not totally in on George Pickens, but that's kind of like micro player takes. For the most part, I think the nice thing about this team is that you are well set up draft capital wise to be able to add, a solid piece in the first round this year. You said you just missed the playoffs, so I'm assuming your own first that you have is like the 106 or something like that. And then you should be able to get, maybe a Sean Tucker there, maybe a Jordan Addison there or something like that. That'll definitely help out this team. It is a 1 quarterback league, so that might be a little tougher. And then you have 2 twos as well to help add some running back depth. Maybe you can hit on like a Zach Evans or a Tank Bigsby in the second round. But for the most part, I think you're well set up to kind of just keep doing what you're doing. George Pickens is the only like sell candidate that stands out to me. Gibson and Dobbins, if a value pocket kind of opens up for them, they kind of stand out to me as well. But for the most part, you could probably just keep on keeping on with this team. So we can move on unless you have something to add about George Pickens' value.
I just have to add one thing right now, which I find ludicrous. Rashad Bateman is currently the wide receiver 36 on Keep Trade Cut, and George Pickens is currently the wide receiver 18.
There's not a huge difference between those two guys.
Not at all. I would prefer Bateman.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a fine take there. I think Pickens is just too overvalued. He's made some contested catches, and he's really, he's kind of just like Martavis Bryant all over again to me. Like that's kind of how I view him. Anyways, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say realistically, Wan'Dale Robinson was more productive when he was on the field, and he's currently the wide receiver 43. I get it. He tore his
ACL, which is part of it, probably. Yeah. But yeah, I think he would be, probably wide receiver 38, even if he didn't tear his ACL right now. So the next team that we have here, though, is from Zachy. And this one's interesting because we don't cover a lot of 8-team leagues. This is an 8-team dynasty league with 1 quarterback. So this is like, you better have superstars on your team, because if that's the only way you're winning in an 8-team format is when you have superstars. So superstar check right off the bat. I would say he's very much covered. He's got Mahomes as his main quarterback with Trevor Lawrence in the wings. Jefferson and Chase qualify as superstars, very much so, a wide receiver. Pitts, the best tight end you can have in Dynasty. Jonathan Taylor, ETN, both top 5 Dynasty running backs. And then great depth with DK Metcalf, who's a top 10 receiver.
Garrett Wilson,
top 10 receiver. And Njoku and Schultz are solid depth at tight end. Burks, Dotson, Brian Robinson, James Cook, Rashad White, also solid depth there as well. So overall, I think you're very well set up. I think this is a great constructed team for a 1 quarterback, 8-team type of format. He has a number of trades here. I'm going to list the trades and you give me like what side you prefer, just because he has a lot of trades here. I don't want to go too in depth on all of them, but let's start. We'll go kind of trade by trade and just tell me which side you prefer. All right.
Yeah, ETN easily right now over DJ Moore side.
Yeah, okay. So he traded DJ Moore for ETN 2 seconds. 222 seconds and a 2023 second. Easy trade to make there. Quick smash. Ramondre Stevenson and the 305 for Trevor Lawrence in the 106. Yes. 1 quarterback league, but give me the 106 and Trevor Lawrence.
Heartbeat.
Robert Woods and Josh Jacobs for Kadarius Toney and Saquon Barkley.
What? Barkley.
And that might be Jelani Woods too. I don't know. He just has Woods listed there. Barkley and Gabe Davis and the 208 for Jonathan Taylor and Chase. I don't know how you got that done. That one's really not close at all.
What in the heck is going on right now?
Yeah. Watson, the 106 and Mooney for the 101. I don't know if that's Sean or if that's Christian, but I think either way I would prefer the 101 given that
1 quarterback league.
Bijan's going to be the stud factor for this team that you need. Christian Kirk for Rashad Bateman at 2024 first. Easy move to make there.
It's an 8-team league, so that's a top 8 pick, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Miles Sanders for Pitts in the 302. Dude, I don't know how the hell this is getting done. James Conner for Garrett Wilson and a 2024 first. Yeah, you're playing with some casuals, my friend. I understand why your team is so dominant now. Pat Freiermuth for a 2024 third.
I actually don't like that one.
That's the one move I don't like. I would have kept Freiermuth and rather.
Given your league market, I'm surprised you didn't get a first out of it.
Yeah, I think by the looks of it, your league market is like, if they're not producing, they're not valuable. Pretty much. Yeah. That's the only way they think about this. So in addition to the team that he has, he also has the 101, 102, 105, 205, and 302, and 3 ones in 2023 as well. So I don't think we need to spend much more time on your team here, Zachy. You have probably, without a doubt, the best team in your league, as well as you're going to add Bijan to this running back core. You're going to add potentially Gibbs to this running back core. You're going to add another wide receiver like Jordan Addison to this wide receiver core. You are going to dominate this league to the point that your league mates might leave. This is going to be bad.
This league's 100% going to fold within the next 3 years. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
You're in a great spot. Hopefully your league mates stay in the league. That's your only concern at this point, because you are going to run roughshod for a couple years.
Yeah, this is going to be like 200 to 80 scores. I'm not even kidding you. You're going to score like 200 a week.
Yeah, this is crazy. Anyway, let's go on to Dylan's team. A little bit more of a competitive squad here. 1 quarterback, 1.5 tight end premium. Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers is main QBs there. Breece Hall, Javonte, J.K. Dobbins. A lot of Javonte, J.K. Dobbins, Breece Hall cores in this video. Rashad White, Jamal Williams, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Drake London, Chris Olave there as well. Wandale and Josh Palmer later on. T.J. Hawkinson is his main tight end. He also has 3 firsts in 2023, 2 early, but not the 101, so probably top 4 picks. And then 2 2023 seconds. And then all of his other 2024, 2025 picks, except an additional 2024 first. So he said he is going into the playoffs as the 6th seed right now. He doesn't plan to make any moves to win this year. So I'm assuming he's treating this year as a house money year. He made the playoffs, but he wasn't expecting to. I think he thinks he has a great shot of winning in 2023, but he wanted to double check to see what we think if he has a chance to win next year. So what are your thoughts looking at the team? Do you think he's made the correct assessment that he probably was house money this year and it has a chance to compete next year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you already have Lamar as a difference-making quarterback. Breece Hall, Javonte, J.K. Dobbins, Rashad White. You got a solid stable of backs that's probably going to be adding at least 1 or 2 within the next draft. A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Drake London, Chris Olave, Michael Gallup. Yeah, you set a receiver, and then tight end. Hawkinson, I don't mind. I think he could be, a mid-ish, tight end 5 to 9 range for you, give or take. But he's obviously not a huge difference maker, but at least he's
2 twos. Just add Michael Mayer to that tight end core, and you're probably fine.
Yeah, and at least you have like a solution, you know what I mean? Like you have somebody, and I mean, realistically, you might even be able to see if you get a guy like Michael Mayer in the draft, what Hawkinson's relative value might be worth potentially adding to a wide receiver for a wide receiver upgrade, or adding to a running back for a running back upgrade, or I mean, God forbid, maybe you say, hey, this 102, 103, what plus Hawkinson gets me to 101?
Yeah, exactly. This team, the one thing I will say about this team is he says it's the 6th seed right now. Just looking at like what his starting roster would be, you might be able to win with this team. You got Lamar Jackson as your main quarterback. If he's
Don't add
healthy,
anything though.
obviously, he's not going to be healthy. So that's definitely a problem for you. But like as of right now, you're kind of repping like a 0 RB with Rashad White, Jamal Williams as your top 2 running backs. AJ Brown, Metcalf, Olave, London, those guys are going to be pretty productive. Gallup. TJ Hawkinson. So yeah, I would say you made the correct assessment, but I mean, you have an outside shot to at least like make it to the like championship round or something like that. But I think I agree with you. I wouldn't make any moves to try and like compete or anything. He also says he made 3 trades here. So let's quickly go over these. The first 2 were from before the season, if we just want to kind of evaluate what they've been so far. And the second trade was one that he made during the season. And I think it's safe to say he probably won that one. So the first trade that he made, he got Dak, Brees, and DK Metcalf in exchange for Justin Herbert, Christian Watson, Saquon, and Keenan Allen. So this was before the season. Christian Watson was an unknown. Brees Hall,
Yeah.
before his injury, probably looked like this trade was going to work out in his favor big time.
Yeah, I mean, you probably lost on face value, but you got more insulated assets long term because as good as Christian Watson's looked, like there's still a little bit of a question mark there. Maybe they added, a Jordan Addison in the draft, which will make me want him at that price a lot better, a lot more. Because right now he's probably like the wide receiver 16 or 17 in Dynasty. But if they drafted Jordan Addison, we're just hoping that it's the T.A. Higgins effect, where
Yeah.
he goes from like, or I mean, look at Devontae Smith last year. He was what, the wide receiver 16, and then they traded for AJ Brown. He dropped to like the wide receiver 26.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's people are going to have the same reaction if they draft a wide receiver or they trade for a wide receiver or whatever the case is. So yeah,
yeah,
Christian Watson overall dynasty value is kind of interesting, but I agree. I mean, even despite Brees' injury, him and Saquon Barkley is not a far off conversation. Just given Saquon's age, I'd probably prefer Saquon given the injury for Brees Hall, but long term
same tier.
insulated value is still pretty solid for Brees.
Yeah, the same tier. And I mean, realistically, honestly, the more I look at it, like Brees and Saquon are probably relatively even. And I would say, like, I would probably still rather slightly Metcalf over Watson and Keenan.
Yeah, I would definitely rather have
Yeah,
Metcalf over
that's what I'm
Watson.
saying. So then,
It's just,
do,
is that a big enough difference between Herbert and Dak? Because I do think that's probably the
well,
straw that broke the
the
camel's back in this trade, is that Herbert is definitely the best asset in this deal.
in a one quarterback league, no,
Oh, is it a one quarterback league?
is it
Oh,
one
it is.
quarterback or
You
superflex?
are
Yeah,
correct. Yes, I would say overall it's a pretty even trade then.
yeah.
If this is a one quarterback format. So, and then in the next trade, it looks like he got Saquon back. So he traded Christian McCaffrey away for Saquon Barkley in the 104 in the 2022 rookie draft, which eventually became Drake London. So I would say this trade definitely worked out for you, given Drake London's like a top 12 dynasty receiver for me. And Saquon Barkley versus Christian McCaffrey long term is a toss up. Like whoever you want, it's pretty much the same tier. So overall, I think you netted positive out of those first 2 trades, and then this other trade is perfect example of like
Easy.
capitalizing on somebody productive in season. Curtis Samuel was probably at his peak production when you made this trade, and you got Rashad White, who was just the handcuff to Leonard Fournette at that point in time. So that is an awesome move to make. That's definitely worked out in your favor, short term and long term. That's going to be a great move for you. So overall, I would say looking at your team, you're well set up to be able to just add some pieces in the draft. Hopefully when your running back core gets healthy, I think you made the correct assessment with this team. You're going to be hopefully a contender in 2023 as long as Brees, Javonte, and J.K. Dobbins can get back healthy. You're probably going to add another running back or 2 to this running back core as well. So you're in a good spot. I think this is one of those teams you just kind of let develop and let materialize as the seasons go along.
Yep, for sure. So, any closing thoughts on his team? I mean, you're pretty well set up. I think you're going to be in a very good spot, especially going into next year. So, anything else you have to say, or should we move on to the final team of the video?
No, we can go on to the final team of the video, which is from Mark D here, a 12-team super flex half PPR start 9 type of league. The startup was this past May. He says the winner of consolation gets the 101. So I'm assuming that means that your toilet bowl that you do is the one who gets the 101. And I believe the toilet bowl is the lowest scoring team in each bracket, right?
It doesn't look like toilet bowl. I think it's like legitimately who wins consolation, which I'm not a big fan of.
I'm pretty sure he means the toilet bowl when he says consolation.
It says consolation though. I know consolation and toilet bowl are 2 separate things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's that would be a really
I've heard
That'd be
I've
a
heard
very
about
odd
that.
league format. I think he just meant toilet bowl.
No, I've heard about that in leagues where they legitimately do a consolation bracket, and the winner of the consolation gets the first pick.
Okay,
I've
well,
heard
that's
that.
if that's what it is, that's a very stupid league format. Sorry to say, because it should go to the worst team in the league. I'm hoping you just meant the winner of the toilet bowl gets the 101 because that would make a lot more sense. But
Yeah.
team, as you guys can see on the screen there, Mahomes, Lamar, Zach Wilson, Superflex league's fine there. ETN, Foreman mainly at running back, Higgins, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, Traylon Burks, Michael Gallup, David Bell, etc. there at wide receiver. Greg Dulcich, Gerald Everett mainly at tight end. He has 4 2023 firsts, 2 from non-playoff teams, so top 6 picks, and then 2 from playoff teams, so mid to late first round picks there. And then he has 1 early to mid 2023 second, probably from a non-playoff team as well. And then in 2024, he has 3 first round picks as well. So, I mean, looking at this team, I would say this is kind of like your typical like hero RB house money type of team.
With Mahomes and Lamar. With
Yeah,
Mahomes
I
and
mean,
Lamar.
having those 2 guys definitely helps.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at some of these trades. Sorry, that's why my face was going like, "What the heck?" Baker an early second for Trey Lance, so basically just an early second for Trey Lance because Baker's literally worthless. Even like, I'm assuming you did.
I'm
this
assuming
before.
this was after the injury. This had to have been.
I don't know, man. Like, it probably right. Like,
Yeah, I would say this had to have been after the injury because Trey Lance, even in like staunch like Trey Lance's like not proven yet leagues, would probably have still fetched a first round pick.
Either way, though, like you fleeced the dude. Like you fleeced him. Like Trey Lance would be a mid-ish first round pick this year. Heck, you could argue him as a quarterback 1 in this year's draft from a fantasy perspective. So
I would take him over any quarterback in this class.
So he's worth your 102 then. And
yeah, I mean that's actually maybe I'm gonna walk back that statement. Bryce Young would probably take over him just given the Lance uncertainty with the injury. But like that's the conversation. If Anthony Richardson got first round draft capital, I'd probably take him over Trey Lance too.
But other than that, like he's clear top 4 pick if we were to equate him to 2023 value. So yeah, that is a lot of fun. Trade 2, Ayuk in a late second, and you got DK and Josh Palmer. Like what?
Yeah,
like I wouldn't even take that package for DK.
Productive this year, but that's a great move overall.
I wouldn't even take that package for DK alone.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that take.
And then this one, trade 3, just before ATM breakout and before Wilson's downfall, he gave away Geno, Mostert, in a late first for ETN and Zach Wilson. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. Obviously, it sucks with what's happened to Zach Wilson. That could have absolutely smashed this deal out of the park. But even still, I mean, ETN okay. I would still rather
almost worth that package himself, so it's probably fine.
Well, I was just gonna say I would still rather Zach Wilson over Raheem Mostert, but for simplicity's sake, let's just pretend like they are not in this deal. So then it'd be Geno in a late first for ETN, and I think that's probably about equatable value for ETN.
Yeah, and I would probably take ETN in that deal, just given Geno's kind of uncertainty with how he's played throughout his career up until this year. Plus, he's an older player. So, yeah, I think this is a great move for you. And then trade 4, he gives away Breece Hall, Trey Lance, and a late 2023 first and receives Michael Gallup, Lamar Jackson, a 2024 first. So this is a perfect example. I mean, you got Trey Lance for a very low amount of value in an early 2023 second in Baker. And then you then offload all of that risk of Trey Lance not working out and just get a guy that you know is already a great player in Lamar Jackson. And then you also somehow got a 2024 first out of this deal. I almost I mean, Breece Hall, it hurts giving him up, but, and I'm assuming this was probably after the injury that you did this, but I mean, you offload that risk of a ACL torn running back and you offload the risk of Trey Lance's like kind of uncertainty with his future into a solid, stable asset with Lamar Jackson, a guy that should increase in value, Michael Gallup, and a 2024 first.
I don't know how you got a first out of this. Like this would have been relatively equal if it was Breece, Trey Lance, and a first for Lamar and Gallup, in my opinion. Like, because Lamar Jackson is a top 5 overall asset, period, in Superflex. And I get it. He's been kind of, inconsistent the last few weeks, banged up now. This is probably the perfect buy low window if you're trying to target a guy like Lamar Jackson, because the owner's probably a little bit upset with what they've gotten out of him so far this year. Guys, he's throwing to literal mailmen and Mark Andrews. Like, his wide receiver core is probably the worst thing I have ever seen, apart from maybe the Bears entering the year. Like it's absurd. It's absurd. Without Rashad Bateman, we have seen just how poor the Ravens wide receiver depth is. We have fucking like Demarcus Robinson and Devin Duvernay. Like, guys, those are wide receiver 4-5s on other good teams. Realistically, those are wide receiver 4-5s, and those are currently the wide receivers 1 and 2 for the Ravens. Like, if the Ravens have to know that if Rashad Bateman misses time now, we can't suffice. So if anything, I think going into this offseason, the likelihood of the Ravens getting a stud, solid wide receiver 2, maybe in the draft, maybe in trade, maybe in free agency, you name it, they realize that they have, like, again, if they keep Lamar Jackson, there's a lot of hoopla going around, but I'm assuming that they're keeping Lamar Jackson because it would be fucking ridiculous not to. If you know that you're going into next season with Lamar Jackson, you know right in advance right now, based off what you've seen this year, that a wide receiver needs to be added. It has to be added. Like Rashad Bateman, as good as he is, as talented as he is, has not been available the last 2 years.
Yeah. I think the Ravens will probably take the, like, we're going to sign a veteran and draft somebody, like kind of like what the Jets did when they signed Corey Davis and drafted Elijah Moore. That's probably the type of move that they should make around Rashad Bateman as well, at wide receiver. But yeah, overall, I would say your team is well set up. You're probably not in position to win this year, I would assume. I don't know where your pick is currently, but you're probably going to be well set up next year. Once you add the 4 2023 first round players that you're going to have for your team, 2 of those guys from the top 6, 2 of those guys from the like 107 to 112 range, you should be able to add at least 1 or 2 running backs, maybe another receiver. Maybe you want to grab like a Will Levis. If you have like the 111 and Will Levis gets first round draft capital, I don't mind having him as your third quarterback behind the 2 that you got. But for the most part, you're in a really good spot to be able to just kind of let this thing develop with your draft picks, knowing that you also have 3 2024 first as well. So even though 2023 is probably your first winning window, your real winning window is probably 2024. So yeah, that is the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like, comment any of your thoughts down below, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want first dibs, first access to Dynasty Decisions, join the Patreon, patreon.com over there, Fantasy Stock Exchange. And you can check out anything else that we're doing over there on Patreon. There's tons of other Dynasty content, rookie content, all that stuff coming as soon as the season is done. We'll be updating our Dynasty rankings and probably bringing you guys like positional Dynasty ranking update videos in the coming weeks as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But with that being said, peace out. We'll talk to you soon.
Why you need the money?